So the Nintendo Switch 2 just launched today, and it's an absolute masterclass in playing it safe. Today we're going to talk about why you can't play it safe and what we can learn from Nintendo's absolutely abysmal launch of a brand new product. So Nintendo launched today with a very brand new version of the Nintendo Switch that's not new at all. In fact, it's so not different that if you didn't know the difference between the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2, you probably wouldn't even be able to find it. They have completely mistaken evolution for revolution. And even though their marketing would say that this is a revolutionary product, Nintendo dropped the ball. They dropped it today. It flopped today. Even though stores are full, lines are long, and there's a ton of interest and buzz around the product, I'm telling you right now, there's a lesson in this for all of us business owners in what Nintendo did wrong. And today, Marty and I are going to break it down for you so you don't make the same mistake with your business, with your life, and you learn to build something way more revolutionary than what Nintendo attempted to do and totally bombed this week here in April. Marty, are you an avid Nintendo Switch user?
I'm an Atari fan.
Oh my God. Okay. So we're coming a long way forward.
Well, I don't think they would call it abysmal nor a flop. I just because they were raking in cash all day today.
Nintendo?
Yes.
Well, that might be true for like their diehard fans, right? They're like loyalists. But I think that what Nintendo has built their brand on for the last 3 decades, really, like since I was a kid, was like innovation and products that were creative. And yeah, they come in cycles, but this just seems like a total cop out of what Nintendo stands for, in my opinion. This thing is minimally different than what the old one was.
They followed Atari, right? They were like, it was Atari, then Nintendo, I think, came after, kind of revolutionized the product at that point. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, the original Nintendo Entertainment System was like one of the first large scale gaming platforms.
And I remember like that versus Atari, the graphics was remarkably different. Better.
Yeah, it was like interactive, and
at that time, yes.
I remember playing the original Mario, and I definitely remember like there was a running game where I had like a trackpad underneath me. There was a lot of really cool stuff going on with Nintendo back in the day. And they're known for this, right? They're known for these sort of video game level ups. Like they have created so much buzz. And the Nintendo Switch was one of them. It was a very unique look at gaming where you could plug it into a dock and it'd be on your screen and you could take it away and then you could go in the car. I just don't think that this is what we as business owners need to be looking at as a model of how to do things.
I'm laughing to myself because I'm also thinking of Pong. I remember Pong prior to Atari. I'm dating myself.
A little bit. Yeah, especially if that's your context. Like not even the last 9 video game systems, like the original video game system.
I haven't had a video system in quite a while.
Well, regardless of your video game appetite, there is something to be said for how leaders, right? Nintendo being the sort of moniker today and what we're using as a banner image. A lot of leaders think that, these micro updates are going to create like big quantum changes, quantum leaps in their revenue or their profit or their ability to scale. And that doesn't tally, right? That doesn't add up. There's something missing in that line of thought. Hey, we'll improve the screen by 1/2 inch. Hey, we'll make the buttons a little better. Hey, we'll make them, you don't have to clip them in, they're magnets now. Like that's not going to move the bottom line the way that you think. And while I would bet that even though there are a lot of people lined up for this new purchase, it probably doesn't move the Nintendo needle as much as they might want it to in the long run.
It essentially, what I'm thinking as I'm listening to you, it essentially appeases the followers already. Right? It's not about attracting new necessarily. It's about they know their faithful will continue to purchase it regardless. and that's essentially what they've created. It's I mean, I think Star Wars, something like Star Wars, is like that. New movies just kind of appeal to the same audience.
Yeah, you get your loyalists, right?
Yes.
They're gonna buy in, but I'm just like, I'm thinking about this. If you want your business, like, if you want your business to look totally different, and by totally different, I don't mean totally worse. I mean like totally better, right? You want it to look remarkably different in a good way. You want your life to look remarkably different in a good way. You can't copy Nintendo right now. You can't, because this philosophy of small improvements and small tweaks will never take you to this like big change. And it tracks, right? You want big results, you need big change. That's just going to be important for us to kind of hone in on as we talk through this. I also think that when I look at the new Nintendo, and I'm a gamer, right? I'm literally evaluating this thing, saying like, why would I buy that? I have a regular Nintendo Switch. Like, why would I buy that? I don't see a reason to. I do.
Oh,
You can check it out. You can play it if you want. But there's no compelling factor for me to go back, right? And this is true in a lot of industries. If I bought a cold plunge, I'm not gonna, like, there's nothing you could upgrade in a cold plunge that would make me go, oh, you know what I need to do? I need to buy a second cold plunge.
Right. Like, we improved the technology.
Right. It's so much colder.
Right.
And if you build your model on someone having one of what you offer, then you're probably going to get stuck in a loop of, well, I've used the thing, I bought the thing, I own the thing. I guess I'm tapped out. And maybe I refer people your way, but I'm probably tapped out as a customer.
That's a tough model.
It's a very tough model.
And do they really go into it thinking that? And where are the creative minds to come up with something new?
Yeah. Again, the Nintendo Switch 1 was a phenomenal departure from what we had gotten before. The Xbox, like however many Xboxes there were Xbox 360, then it was Xbox One, which doesn't make sense because it went from 360 down to one. After one, the first, I don't understand how they name these things, but like there was just a progression of like the same system, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just, okay, we got it. So the Switch was a departure where someone clearly sat down and was like, what if we just redesigned what this looks like? What if we started from a blank canvas and got creative? And what I appreciate most about Nintendo's identity at that point was that they were essentially designing without the context of what had been done, right? They let go of the past so that they could build the future. And in doing that, they designed something really special, really different. Whether you like it or not, or the games are for you, it doesn't really matter to me. For thinking about the business model, they designed something really special. And I feel like they flopped it with this one. They were just like, let's take the easy route. Let's just make this one better.
Yeah, it's almost, well, we're cash flow's low, so we got to put something out.
Right. Help.
Yeah.
Yeah, the buzz is fading. Let's put something else out.
Is this a handheld thing? Call me crazy.
It can be, yeah. Yeah, you can hold it in your hands. So it's got, so if you look at this thing, right? This piece right here, you can like plug this dock into your TV and then play with this controller. Or you take these pieces right here and you just plug it to the device, and now it's like a mobile, like it looks like an old Sega Genesis.
Sega.
Remember those? Yeah. Yeah, you thought I forgot about those.
It's like we're walking down memory lane today with these games.
So, it does both, right? It can be your home console. It can also be one that you play online from home or one that you play on the road. Like it's kind of awesome. I'm a big fan of it. What I'm reminded of is a couple examples of like when companies have taken quantum leaps. So if we assume the Switch is one of them, another would be the iPhone. So iPhone was 2007. Like they took the phone and
that was night and
just
day.
deleted it.
Yeah, I do remember that. It was like night and day.
It was crazy. Like
all of a sudden, I'm walking around with a computer in my pocket.
And man, like the ads made you feel like the future was here. I mean, I was in college and I remember my buddy got one, my roommate got one. I'm like, dude, this is insane. You can like, first of all, there's a keyboard. second of all, you can like map your way to stuff. What are we going to do with all the papers of maps that we have? Right? There was.
I have to print it off every time I was going.
What do I do with MapQuest? And there was something about that. Steve Jobs and Apple at the time, they didn't upgrade. They didn't marginally improve the old phone. What they did was like completely reinvent it. And I think that's really special. There was a vision of something that had never been created, and it got done. And the Nintendo Switch 1 was that. It was a vision of something new.
Has Apple revolutionized anything since?
It's a great point, right? Marginal improvement.
Correct,
and there's been a lot of them because there's iPhone 18. So I don't know if they're actually 18, but shit, there's at least almost 18 years of improvements over time, right?
The same thing. And every time they come out with a new one, there's all this fanfare, but it's still the same damn phone. Nothing's different.
Just like this, right? That's why I think this is a total flop for Nintendo, because all they're doing is the Apple model of like, buy the next upgrade and your phone will be electrically better. And you get it. You're like, this is the same fucking phone.
Because it has like 50,000 gigabytes of space that I don't even know what that means on it.
Somehow still I have to buy mega storage for my photos.
Why is it full all the time?
I mean, I understand I got to take 45-minute videos now and again, but alas, we'll talk about that another time. So here's another one, right? I think another good example of like a quantum leap and dramatic change in the business industry has been Tesla. Now, hate the cars, hate the stories, hate SpaceX. Like, let's not go down that path.
Elon Musk
hate the leader, right? Like, let's not go down that path. But electric cars, prior to it was the Model S that came out, and this was not incredibly long ago. But prior to that, electric cars were the ugliest, most impossibly difficult to like cars on the planet, right? No, like if you drove, I'm pretty sure when they sold electric cars, they gave you a pocket protector. Like they were just like, look, man, you've committed to a life of being single forever. You're stuck here. Enjoy your ride.
Says the guy who owned an electric car.
I did, but it came a long way since Tesla, right? They're now cool. But at the time, they weren't intended to be cool. They were intended to be functional, right? And what Tesla did is they made electric cars cool, and they made it possible for the rest of us to be like, oh, well, why didn't we make electric cars cool and tech oriented and functional and like advanced? Why wouldn't we do that? But it reset the standard.
I used to love driving that car.
Yeah, that car was sweet.
Your Hyundai, yeah, it just drove really nice.
Yeah, it was like a bullet.
It's just they're not practical when you have to drive distance.
Yeah, they're great secondary cars.
Yeah,
for sure. So here's why we're talking about this, and here's, Marty, you can lean in specifically on this like translation to life and business. I think that the natural cause of like pain for business owners is like, I don't like my business, I don't like my life. Because if you don't like your business, you're probably not going to like your life. If you don't like what you're doing, you don't like your responsibilities, you don't like the amount of work that you have, you don't like your income, your revenue, you don't like your team, you don't like hiring, and you're constantly having to refill shit, your life is going to suffer as a business owner. Like, it's just going to not be fun, right?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a pleasant life.
No, that sounds awful. But if like you're in that place, if you don't have the business that you want and you don't have the life that you want because the business that you have is not where you want it to be or the way that you want it to be, marginal improvements will never get you there. There's like the Nintendo model of like, well, let's just make the screen a little bigger is never going to make it better. You're just going to keep improving on the shit that's not working.
Yeah, I think the challenge of the whole thing is it's hard to find a current model that I could say, I want to be like that. I think it is at the moment. I think it's hard to find a model out there that I would say, oh yeah, like that's the one. They're kind of taking us to the next level. I don't think that exists at the moment, or it does, and we don't know that.
Or we might distrust it, which I think is fair too. Which, if we can't find a model, I think this is where the work for business owners really begins. Because if we know that marginal improvement doesn't work, and we know that there's no model. The only option you have to design a quantum leap, a big jump in your life, a big status upgrade, like some of these, we see stories like this all the time. If you're going to do that and go through that, the only way to design it is from a blank canvas. The only way to say like, hey, if I keep improving this business, I go from 60 hours a week to 55 hours a week. Like it's never going to work. The goal would be to sit down and say, how do I run this business where I only work 10 a week? That requires tremendous, not just creativity, but you have to ditch everything that you've ever learned and known about your business and really design from a new canvas, a blank slate.
Is that the reason why people don't?
I think so. I do. I avoid that. It's much harder for sure.
Well, it sounds daunting. You and I have had this conversation before, though. I think the starting point, because if I say, well, here's the blank canvas, that's really hard. That is really hard. But there are starting points. We were just talking about this recently. Like, can I identify what my values are? And let's at least start from some kind of basis of what makes you tick as a person, and then build from there. So it's blank, and yet at the core, there's still something.
Yeah, I would agree that it is daunting and difficult to begin with. Like, how would I design the business that I love, that is thriving, that's quintuple what I currently have from zero, right?
When all I know is what I know.
Exactly. When all I know is what I know. And if you're going to have a starting point, something like values or culture, or, maybe there's a couple anchor points that we can create that are working great.
Correct.
And here's a good example, right? Nintendo Switch, when they built the first one, there were a couple anchors. I mean, I think one of the anchors is definitely that they were going to bring the like key titles back over to the platform. So like Mario Kart and all these like Zeldas and things like that. So you have a couple anchors, right? The other anchor point that I think they have, Zelda, man, play that game for hours because it required hours.
That's just because you like Zelda.
Yeah, fair. The challenge for finding other anchor points when you're trying to redesign this, I think for them was, well, we're good at handhelds. Why don't we make a handheld? But people don't want a handheld. Well, okay, let's keep that in mind, but let's build this something new. I don't know what their process was, but I think if you're going to design a business that you love and one that really feeds your lifestyle, you have to be willing to break a couple of the boundaries that you've been living in. I'll give you an example just from my life. When I was working in a full-time job, the idea of like not working a full-time job was really far-fetched. Then I started coaching soccer and building a business and eventually quit my job. And I quit my job into coaching soccer at night, which was pre-established. I was doing that already. So I had like a bridge. And then I started building this business out aside from it, right? In building out that business, though, I had to do what I had to do to make it work. And it required a lot of in-person things. And it wasn't long before the improvement was like, well, I want to be able to go away for a weekend. Not, I want to build a life that's like completely remote. I want to build a remote business. It was like, I just want a little more time. As soon as COVID hit, the business turned into a remote business. But I was playing it safe by being like, I just want a couple extra weekend hours so I could travel or whatever, instead of holding my flag and saying, hey, I really want to have a remote business so I can go see the world. And I think I was a little bit lazy about that, candidly. I was too daunted.
Until you were pushed in a corner.
Until I had no choice.
Is that where the revolution, I don't know, because I can't speak for, obviously can't speak for Steve Jobs. It takes being kind of pushed into that incubator type pressure in order for something new to come out.
There's certainly truth to creativity requiring friction, right? And you just got to go through that friction. Maybe that's also, formatting. I mean, we help clients build visions that are disconnected, and it does require a bit of pushing and maybe some accountability to being pushed. But maybe underneath that, I love that suggestion, Marty. Like, let's replace the word pressure with
It was
constraint.
the only word I could think of.
But I think it's a good word. If we tweak it to constraint, then I think we end up somewhere special. Because if you change the constraints, then you do change what options are viable, right? If we look at Nintendo and say, hey, your constraint is in building this new product, you have, I don't know, let's make up a number. You have $10 million to like change this product. Well, that's a very different problem and opportunity versus if I say, hey, you have $100,000 to change this product, right? To invest in R&D and new product and new ideas. Like you change the constraints, you get different options. And I think with our life, when I think about rebuilding a business, the constraints matter.
Just thinking of that, or Apple back in 2000, whatever it was, 2007. It is part of the constraint recognizing the need of the people. So a Nintendo Switch allows flexibility for taking it with me and playing it at home. I don't have to necessarily make a choice anymore. I can do both. Apple, essentially, it's the same thing. And is that part of the constraint is, yeah, there's the constraint of money of what we can do, but there's also a constraint that's set by whoever's going to be purchasing the product.
Yeah. Yeah, the user. Yeah, there's a ton. I mean, look, this is why people go out and buy like a new planner, right? They're like, oh, that's going to change my life. Like, bro, you hate your business. You hate doing what you're doing. And you think a planner, like a $14.95 planner, is going to change your life?
Planner?
like a journal with prompts is going to dramatically change. Like, come on, man. Like, there's no way that's going to dramatically change your life. Or you're like, oh, you know what? Like, I need a different coffee machine. Like that's not going to change your life. If you hate your business or your business doesn't feel like it's fueling the life that you want, it's going to take more than just small changes.
I would say that's just avoiding the problem.
Which is a constraint.
Right.
Right. Like, I don't want to change the way that we sell. I don't want to change the way that we work. I don't want to change the way that we hire. But as soon as you unlock that constraint, something big might change.
There's always this would be just listening and processing it. There's always a fear, I would think, that you're going to lose your customer base if you change it too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fear of that change.
Definitely.
And then it manifests itself in slight changes versus revolutionizing the product.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand the fear. As a business owner, I definitely do. I have been encumbered by that fear many times. And also when you get COVID is a great example. When you get pushed into it, you're like, dude, we got no option. Like, we're gonna have to make it work. You and I are at the cusp of some of those choices with like, okay, we're just gonna have to make it work. And whatever challenges come, whatever friction comes from making the adjustment to make the quantum leap or set the stage for the quantum leap, just has to happen. I mean, I think about like people that blew up right out of nowhere. Here's a name that doesn't get shared much very often. Talk about Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty blew up out of nowhere, which is all over the place.
Right.
And we can have some conversations about like things that he chose to do, but like, again, just think about the blow up. If the quantum leap happens, everything looks different. And I think about this, like if you have a business that goes from, let's say, $10,000 a month to $10,000 a day, you have a quantum leap. And at the end of the year, everything has to be different. The way you talk to customers, who talks to customers, how much AI you use, the way that you deliver product, the way that you communicate your value, like everything has to change. And all of us sit here and we're like, I want to have a quantum leap, but are we actually willing to change the constraints or let go of some of the stuff in order to get there? Nintendo just showed us that even big companies get caught in the like, well, I mean, do we really got to change that much? They'll buy it. But could they have actually really pressed the boundary? I think they could have.
And do they, I just kind of wondering, do they, as far as Jay Shetty, I know Jay Shetty's name. I cannot tell you what his product is. I don't know what I would go. I've heard him many times, but I don't know what a product is of his. But I'm also thinking, does a company like Nintendo or, yeah, we'll use Nintendo. I would think if the bottom line is dollars and cents, you could just do slight changes and your loyalists are going to buy it. If that's the bottom line. If the bottom line is something different, is revolutionizing or expansion or something other than dollars and cents, it starts to sound like you have to change what your bottom line is.
A new constraint. Yeah, totally. I fully agree with that. Here's something that comes to mind. We have a business owner that's been going through our program. And one of the things he has said about his vacations is, I want to take better vacations, right? So this is an example of like the Nintendo Switch 1 paradigm and the Nintendo Switch 2 paradigm. So I want to take better vacations. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, well, I want to go to nicer places, maybe, stay an extra day or two or something like that. So this is Nintendo Switch 2, right? I just want marginal improvement. Like, I like that we go on vacations. He said he takes 2 a year. And I'm like, wait, so you're telling me that you want to keep that, but you just want them a little better? Like, that's the best you've got? He didn't like this at all, but so I keep pressing this button, right? I keep pressing constraints. I'm like, what? But why do you only want the same thing, just a little better? Like, is there nothing else that you can imagine that would be totally different? It took us a long time to get where we wanted to go, but he was stuck in the Nintendo 2 model. Little bit. Better cafes, better hotels, maybe better events and venues, but that's it.
Instead of Phoenix, I'm going to go to Tucson.
Or like, yeah, I'm going to go to Spain, and then next time I want to go to Germany, and next time, but like generally the constraints were the same. I want to go for about a week. I want to take the family. Cool. Okay, I might want to bump to first class. Like, all right, like cool. You're really dreaming here. And eventually,
this time I'm getting a rental car.
Right. Yeah, a Fiat. And so I started pushing buttons about like, okay, pause for a minute. Let's say you just sold the business. Again, constraint, right? Constraint theory. We just changed this entire monologue. Let's say you just sold the business. You have a whopping bank account. What would your trip look like? Dude, out of nowhere. Like, that's the only prompt I gave him. He's like, oh man, dude, I would love to travel Europe for 3 months. I'm like, what the hell? How you never got there a minute ago? You never would have gotten there. Really? But once you change the constraints, then we actually had a really productive conversation, because then the conversation wasn't, how do we improve so that your $10,000 vacation becomes a $15,000 vacation? Then it was, how do we set your business up so that you get to go travel for 3 months, where you can check in on it, you can monitor it, you can influence it, but it's running while you're traveling the country with your kids. Now the business has a real shot at a quantum leap. It has a real opportunity at the change needed to have something special happen. But we had to change the constraints.
Yeah, I'm thinking how many revolutionaries Nintendo Switch 1 people are out there, but got comfortable and can't get beyond the comfort of the first success trying to get to the second.
Yeah.
Revolutionizing the second time.
There's one of my favorite movies is called Grandma's Boy. And the protagonist is like this older guy that ends up designing a game, and everyone's like, whoa, this is such a cool game. And the antagonist is this like nerdy computer gamer that like had a big success, and then everything after that was kind of like a repeat of the same thing. And it's the same story over and over, right? We might have a very big business success, and then we're stuck. We're just caught in the like, well, I'm just going to keep improving it because it worked, rather than rebuild every part.
That's the pattern people can't break. That's my own experience as well. I've done it once, and then I want more, but the pattern doesn't work again, and I don't know how to break that pattern.
Well, this is where the idea of vision becomes different than marginal improvement, right? The goal is to cast a vision outside of the constraints that you currently have, and then reverse engineer for new constraints. So if someone says, hey, I want to be able to take a 3-month vacation or go travel 3 months from now, you have to change certain things in your business to do that. If I said, hey, I I don't know, this is a weird example, but I'm like, if I want to be a virtual dad and not be in person, that changes everything, the paradigm shift. That's not what I want. But just think about how that changes the paradigm. If I say, okay, I'm in decent shape and I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle, there is not much that I need to change. But if I say I want to like rank top 10 in my age group in an Ironman, now there is. And to me, Marty, this all comes down to like, are you playing it safe? So safe that your vision is just an extension of your current circumstance. It's not actually a vision. It's just marginal improvement on the same product that you launched 3 years ago.
Do you, because you're in it much more than I am, do you have like what are constraints you help put on? You mentioned the one about vacation, but you who's typically coaching them, what are the constraints you put on them to help put that pressure, even though you don't want to use that word, to change or to at least begin to look at it differently?
That's a great one. Great question. So
That's what I'm here for.
You're doing it. One, we use time dilation. So what we do is we say, what's your 3-year goal? Or what's your 1-year goal? Okay. What's your 3-year goal? What's your 10-year goal? So we might play with this, right? Because everyone has their different ways of looking at distance. Because really we entrepreneurs actually use time to measure distance. So in 10 years, I'm looking at how far can I get, not how long did it take me to get there. So when someone says, hey, this is my 3-year goal, I'm like, great, what's your 10-year goal? And then we take the 10-year goal and we move that backwards. And we say, great, what if that was your 3-year goal?
5. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're going to say, like, smush it down.
That begins to tighten it.
Yeah. So now, you might say, okay, 3 years, I want to get the business to 5 million revenue, have a team of 10, and I take 2 weeks of vacation. But in 10 years, we have, I don't know, 30 million revenue, a team of 100, and I take these 3-month vacations away in Europe. Okay, well, now let's make that the 3-year goal. You don't need the revenue for that. You need a system in place to do that. So we take relevant information from this expansion of time, which is really distance, to like change the constraints. So that's one. Another one is money, right? Because a lot of times I get stuck in this, but I see this over and over. CEOs get really trapped. Leaders get trapped in equating a money problem for a priority problem. So if we say, okay, why can't you go on 3 months vacation? Oh, because we don't have $50 million a minute flying in. Okay, well, how much does it cost to take 3 months? Well, actually, I just can't be away because I'll lose revenue. So then we get to start playing with what would it look like if you weren't responsible for these things. But we started with money because money is usually the object that we use to say, I can't have it right now.
Yeah, and I can also see how you can tie that and the time one together in the sense that, well, all right, what if you had that $50 million right now? What would be different?
Now. Yeah, what would you do different? So we're like playing with like this creative canvas. I think another interesting one, right? A lot of CEOs will tell me that they want to spend more time with their kids and they need more revenue for that. And I understand. I do. I genuinely understand. Like, you might need to get the revenue up so that you can hire, et cetera, like delegate, fine. But having more revenue does not mean that you automatically get more time with your kids. So we have to understand how to decouple and then recouple some of these things together to say, all right, well, what revenue do you want to be at? Okay, you want to be at 5 mil. Well, how does the business look at 5 mil that would allow you to be more present with your kids and spend more time with them? Oh, well, at 5 mil, I would have an executive assistant. I would have these systems delegated. I would have this kind of calendar. I would say no to this kind of meeting. Like, oh, that's the magic that we get to extract. That's how we use vision to make tactical change in a business to then get you more time with your kids, which is going to make you a better leader because you're going to feel great about your business again. You have the business that you want. That's like another one. So money is number 2.
I mean, I know you've had that conversation when it comes to kids before as well. There's also, well, your kids are going to be 13 years old in 10 years.
You don't have time.
And they might not want to be around you at that point. So
Yeah, no matter how cool you are, you ain't cool.
correct. So yeah, make the adjustment. Now again, it's still putting constraint on it.
Yeah.
What needs to happen for you to do that right now?
Yeah. So the third one, I think is actually like the most fun of them, and that's like, what would you do if you didn't have to work? And I asked that in a lot of different ways. It might be like, hey, you sold your business and now you don't have to work. Like, what would you do? I asked this of a client, and one of the first things that we got to, I was playing with time dilation and with money dilation. And then we got to this one, and it was like, oh, well, there's some overseas stuff that I would love to get involved in. And I could be great. My home country, I'd love to contribute to some efforts there. Or I'd love to get involved in local politics and maybe see if there's a way to take my expertise and have it make a difference in the larger community. Like, boom. Now we've got some real meaty material that helps us redesign without the marginal approach that most people take. We can redesign your business around this. And ironically, like as soon as it came out, it identified this thing within weeks. He was at a local like council meeting trying to find, and like it came up in that meeting that maybe what he does could help them solve a affordable housing problem. I'm like, this is amazing. Whoa. But it only came from like, we got to play with these constraints a little bit. So those are the three.
Yeah, and I wrote down for myself here because I was thinking as you were saying it. And another way of putting it from a human perspective is you're helping them mitigate resentment and regret later in life
Yes.
when you're doing that.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. The stuff that you might have missed.
Because essentially that's what's going to happen if you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plenty, especially around like the spend time with kids. Like, I'm really mindful of this while Emerson's really young, that like, it's probably worth, if I end my Wednesday, this is something I'm very proud of. If I end my Wednesday at 2:00, 1:00, maybe I have space for like 3 or 4 calls there. But if instead that goes to him, I'll never regret that. I won't be like, oh man, I missed out on, fucking name it. It doesn't matter what it is. Cause I'm always going to remember that like every Wednesday we have 6 or 7 hours of just he and I doing stuff like that. That's way more valuable. That goes to regret for sure.
Correct. Yeah, I'm laughing to myself because I'm like 6, 7 hours. I would need like an IV of coffee being around the two of you for that long.
Yeah, we're both just Tasmanian devils. Yeah, and look, there are days where I'm really intentional about building this. This is potentially my example of like constraint theory and changing that. Like, what if I just didn't work Wednesdays? Well, okay, right now I can't do that all the time, but I can work towards that. Right? I can do one a month where we just have like a Father Sunday and go do something cool, and like I don't have to worry about daycare or childcare. Like just me and him. Let's go take on the world. Especially as he gets into like 4, 5, 6, 7. That's cool, right? Because right now, I mean, we're not like having discussions about stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I could speak for you. And it was just a couple months ago where Wednesday was like a full load day. And it's already been changed that you do have a block of time now that you have him all day Wednesday, so that you don't have to work.
Right. So, I think at a core, what this drop and flop from Nintendo sort of helps us think about, says it says to me, it's a drop and flop, is that if you go about building your business the way that Nintendo Switch just launched this new iteration, you will probably end up 3 years, 5 years from now, recognizing that you did not make the appropriate changes to get what you wanted. You just made marginal improvements. You updated your calendar software. You changed your like meeting agenda. You upgraded your planner, your notepad. You instituted like a new policy here and there. Like, did you actually change the landscape to match what you wanted out of your life, out of your business and your life? And more than likely we'll be disappointed. The way that I'm disappointed in Nintendo.
You'll get over it.
I don't know. This might haunt me for a long time. It probably won't. I'll forget about it by tomorrow.
That's right. As soon as we stop recording.
Look, like I could see me buying one in a year, right? When they go half off, or like buying it used, or finding it on eBay or whatever. But like, am I going to be first in the door? No. And here's what I want. I want to build a business where when we release a product, when we offer something, when we host a retreat, people are like, dude, I want to be a part of that. Like, I want that. That's cool. And you know what I'm thinking about? We've done this with our retreats. If I go back to the first retreat I launched in 2020, then I go back to the first retreat that we launched with Get Out of Your Own Way, and the retreat that we just did in San Diego, they're remarkably different, right? We had to rebuild the retreat identity to do this one in March from scratch. It wasn't like, let's take the old retreat and do it better. It was like, no, what would this look like if the theme was adventure and epicness embodied? And we had a whole different model, totally different model. We had to rebuild all of it, right? But that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I would never be the person that stands in line for 8 hours for a game system.
I thought I saw you earlier out there.
Outside Fashion Square. Waiting to get in. Again, I'm dating myself. I remember Cabbage Patch Kids and all these other things where people just kind of go crazy when new products come. I know plenty of people for Apple that will go, I'm like, for what? It's the same thing.
Yeah. I think Apple is a great example of sort of lost innovation. I mean, what they have tried with like the VR is a little bit different for sure, but VR is probably a good example of like wherever it started, someone started it, and now it's a thing, right? There's a lot of.
I love walking in the Apple store with the VR systems because they like have you in a you're like in a playpen and you can't leave that little space. Most of the people are just kind of sitting there.
I have not played with an Apple Vision Pro. I probably should go do that. You know what? I probably should not.
No, yeah. You already have the system. You don't need another one.
I know. That's why I'm saying I should definitely not. I'll be like, this is a fun toy.
We could do another episode about our experience going to virtual reality at some point.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Well, here's what I would say to someone tuning in. You know, if like, are you stuck trying to upgrade your way into a better business? Are you stuck upgrading your way into or trying to upgrade your way into a better life? And those like slightly improved features they're just not going to get you there. And it's important that you hear it somewhere, because this like iterative model approach is really common. We talk about it in masterminds. We talk about it with our habits, and there's a time and place for it. But if you're really trying to take that quantum leap, it's going to require a very different method and a very different design methodology to even come up with it. If you're trying to build out a blueprint of what your life looks like as you map out and grow and change, you can't look at the old blueprint. You have to just start with a blank one. And sometimes starting with a blank one, to what Marty mentioned earlier, is so incredibly daunting that it just leaves you stuck, paralyzed, and inactive. If you're ready to create something like dramatically different, if you're looking for something that's really compelling and exciting, a business that gets you up out of bed and forces you to really grow and evolve, but also fulfills like all the tanks that you have, not just a life that's like engineered around moderate improvements. If you want to change the way you lead, the way you love, the way you live, I want you to send me a message, jump on Instagram, send me a message, and ask me for the 3-year vision blueprint. We've got a tremendous tool that will help you get started. We've got all these frameworks so that you stop looking at your life like marginal improvement and 2% gains, and you start designing a blank canvas that can help you reorganize your structure, your product, your offer, your team, your culture, whatever it is, it's going to get you the life that you want. It's not an update. It's a total reinvention, and we've got a great tool for you. Send me a note, jump on Instagram, jump on Facebook. I don't care where you're getting to me. Find a way to get to me. Send me a note. Tell me you want the blueprint, and I'll fire it your way as soon as possible. This is your iPhone moment where everything changes and it's really exciting and all the ads seem really cool. Not your Nintendo Switch 2 moment where guys like us get on and rip about how lackluster the innovation was. It's not okay for you to keep saying that you want a better life and not making your quantum leap. So we're here to break it down for you. If you like this podcast episode, give us 5 stars, leave us a review, and we're going to keep bringing you as much value as possible. Check out our newsletter. If you haven't, go to aaronvelke.com. If you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter. Go to www.living.vision, and you can get on our newsletter list. We send out newsletters at least twice a week to help you get mobile in building your big dream. And we will see you on the next episode. Keep living into a big, bright vision.